Hello. Opens the June 18th Design Review Commission meeting. Welcome. Can we do a roll call, please?
Thank you, Chair. Commissioner Case?
Here.
Vice Chair Basting?
Here.
Chair Newsom?
Here.
Commissioner Riley is ill and will be out tonight, but we have quorum.
Great, thanks. So first I'd like to make a statement. So welcome to the Wednesday, June 18th, 2025 regular meeting of the Walnut Creek Design Review Commission. As some attendees may be participating in their first Walnut Creek DRC meeting, I want to welcome everyone and talk briefly about the scope of this meeting and the public comment process. The Design Review Commission is appointed by the City Council as an advisory body to the Planning Commission on design review for major development projects, major subdivisions, and conditional use permits. Additionally, the Commission is responsible for approving design review for master sign programs. The Commission's role is to review the design, architecture, landscape, building layout, and other related project design components. The purpose of the meeting is to provide design review feedback and consideration for projects on this agenda. Please note that apart from its specialized roles, the Commission is not a decision-making body on project entitlements or environmental review, nor does it make policy or process decisions. Under the Brown Act and the Municipal Code, the Commission cannot act on items not on the agenda or not within the scope of its responsibilities. For each agenda item, there will be an opportunity for public comment on the item. Thus, if you desire to speak on an item on the agenda this evening, please hold your comments until the Commission considers that item. Additionally, we have a section on the agenda titled Public Communications, which is for public comments for items not on the agenda. Each person will have 3 minutes to make their comment. Speakers representing a group will be allowed 10 minutes to speak in lieu of other members of the group speaking on an item. Speakers will not be able to assign unused time to other speakers. If you desire to provide public comment, please fill out a speaker card. Those speaker cards are in the back of the room. They're yellow, so if you want to speak, please fill it out and turn the card in, okay? So with that said, moving right along, we're going to move to the consent calendar. Do we have any items considered to be moved on the consent calendar?
Staff recommends no items to be moved to consent.
Okay, thanks. Item 3, public communications. As promised, this portion is reserved for comment on items not on the agenda. Under the Brown Act, we cannot act on these items during public communications, but may respond briefly to statements made or questions posed, request clarification, or refer an item to staff. Do we have any public communications on items not on the agenda? Seeing none, let's move on. So before we get into the next thing, do we propose moving any items on the agenda?
Thank you, Chair. Yes, staff would recommend the Commission make a motion to switch 4A and 4B, as 4B is much less, a smaller project.
Okay. That okay for you, Stephen?
I'll take a motion in a second.
Okay. Does anybody want to make a motion?
So moved. Second.
Okay. All right. Let's go ahead with item 4B. Oh, hang on. Oh, wait, hang on one sec. So first, one more thing before we do that. So disclosure of ex parte communications. So anybody on this commission been contacted by any members of the public about items on the agenda?
Nope.
Nor have I. Okay. Go ahead, Stephen.
That's not working. You have the track. There it is. That one? Oh, yeah. Just do.
Good evening, Chair, Vice Chair, Commissioners. My name is Stephen Cook, and I am an Assistant Planner with the city's Community Development Department. Before you this evening is a request of a new master sign program for Alpine Square located at 1777 Botello Drive. The associated project number is Y25009. Beginning with site context, the subject property is approximately 1.5 acres in size and is developed with an existing 3-story commercial office building totaling roughly 100,000 square feet. The site is located at the westerly end of Botello Drive and is directly adjacent to Interstate 680. The property is zoned office, and the surrounding land uses include multifamily residential to the north, commercial retail to the east, and Interstate 680 to the west and south. And a vicinity map is included on the slide for your reference. The sign subcommittee reviewed the proposal on May 7th of this year. Overall, the subcommittee was supportive of the master sign program with a few minor recommendations. Specifically, they recommended the removal of a proposed freeway skyline sign location and requested that the site's identification sign include the street name along with the street number. Following that meeting, the applicant revised the master sign program to incorporate all of the subcommittee's requested modifications. The proposed master sign program contains design guidelines and development standards that ensures consistent, well-integrated signage across the property. It helps maintain visual cohesion, supports wayfinding, and serves as the basis for reviewing future sign proposals. It's important to note that the site contains an existing sign program. The intent of this proposal is to update the design of existing signage and introduce 2 new sign types. And for your reference, the site map on the slide highlights, using red circles, the locations of the proposed new signs, which includes 2 freeway-facing skyline signs and a garage entry-exit sign. The proposed sign program will retain the 4 existing tenant wall signs without any modifications. Each of these signs measures 31 square feet, are non-illuminated, and contains an existing aluminum panel with 1-inch deep stainless steel letters. The existing site identification sign is proposed to be redesigned, as highlighted in red on the slide. The new sign will measure 15 square feet, remains non-illuminated, and consists of a new aluminum sign cabinet in a painted finish with a 1/4 inch thick aluminum letter. The sign subcommittee had recommended the applicant to incorporate the full site address with the building name, which is reflected on the proposed design. The existing entry door decals are also proposed to be redesigned, as highlighted in red on the slide. The updated vinyl decals measure 11 square feet and will include both the building name and the site address, whereas the existing decals only displayed the street number. The existing garage wayfinding sign includes blue address numbers and a separate sign with a directional arrow pointing towards the underground parking garage entrance. The proposed MSP will remove these signs completely and replace them with a single consolidated sign that combines directional information and address numbers. This new sign, is highlighted in red, will measure 12 square feet, be non-illuminated, and consist of a 1-inch deep aluminum panel in a painted finish with a 1/4 inch deep painted aluminum letters and numbers. This is a new sign type, which includes an exit and enter adhesive vinyl sticker that will be placed on the existing roll-up door for the underground parking garage. The sign area is 6 square feet. And the sign program proposes 2 new freeway skyline signs. Initially, 3 locations were proposed. However, following recommendations from the sign subcommittee, this was reduced to 2. These signs meet the city's sign ordinance definition of freeway signs, as they exceed 20 square feet in size and are located within 500 feet of a freeway. And because they are proposed to be more than 25 feet above ground level, they are considered to also be skyline signs and are subject to additional findings. However, the signs do not meet the findings and therefore require an exception to the sign ordinance. Both signs share identical design standards and are located along the upper band of a building wall, oriented towards I-680. Each sign is proposed to be up to 80 square feet in size and can be illuminated using halo-lit, face-lit, and push-through methods. Staff believes that the intent of the proposed signage is consistent with previous master sign program approvals in Walnut Creek that have allowed for skyline signs. For example, in the Golden Triangle area, the city has approved multiple 200 square foot skyline signs facing I-680 and BART, while in the downtown core area, Several 60-square-foot skyline signs have been approved along major arterial corridors such as Mount Diablo Boulevard and North Carolina Boulevard. The proposal will provide an identical characteristic by utilizing two building facades that are both oriented towards the I-680 and highly visible to passing motorists to increase tenant identification. The project is recommended to be exempt from CEQA per section 15301, existing facilities. Staff is recommending the Design Review Commission move to determine the project is exempt from CEQA per section 15301, existing facilities, and adopt the draft resolution approving a new master sign program for Alpine Square at 1777 Patello Drive, subject to the conditions of approval contained therein. And that concludes staff's presentation. I'm available for any questions you may have. Additionally, the applicant is present here today and is also available for any questions you may have. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions? I don't have any questions. Do we want to make a motion? Anybody? Oh, public comment, of course. Is there any public comment? See, hearing none, let's move on. So, any commissioner comments?
I have none. The applicant addressed our concerns in signed subcommittee meeting.
Okay, so now should we make a motion? Okay. Anybody want to make a motion?
I make a motion that we approve the recommendation for CEQA exemption and the update to the master sign program.
Second.
Okay. Need a vote?
Commissioner Case?
Yes.
Vice Chair Gracing?
Yes.
Chair Nissen?
Yes.
The ayes have it. The project is approved.
All right, so let's move on to item 4A, which is the Mitchell Townhomes. Does staff have a presentation? Sounds like you do.
Yes. Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Simmer Gill, Senior Planner with the City. We are here tonight to gather DRC's feedback on the Mitchell Townhomes project that will be located on a 22-acre site that's currently occupied by the Walnut Creek Shadelands Executive Park. The application number is Y24-026. And the applicant, Jonathan Fern, and his team are here tonight, as am I, to answer any questions that you may have after this presentation. And just to quickly orient you with the site, the two parcels that will be combined are located fronting Shadelands, and the backside is Mitchell Drive. The site currently has 11 office buildings, which is known as the Walnut Creek Shadelands Executive Park. These buildings will be demolished for proposed construction, and the zoning is planned development, and general plan designation is business park. And as you can see on this map to the left, there is a mix of surrounding uses such as commercial, retail, office, and residential. The Viamonte senior housing community is located to the south, and there are residential uses that are located to the east across Oak Grove Road, as well as the new Oakmont Senior Housing Facility. The entitlements were approved, but it's not under construction yet, but the location for that will be to the north of this project site. And then, of course, everything else around is like the Shadeland Sports Mall, medical facilities, as well as office uses. And here's a closer look at the site. There are 12 buildings on site that are part of the Shadelands Executive Park. 11 buildings are on the two larger parcels that will be demolished, and the 3-story office building that's identified as number 12 facing Oak Grove is on a separate parcel, and that will remain. And the two other adjacent parcels that consist of the Bank of America building at the corner of Oak Grove and Shadelands, and then the Montessori daycare/school for kindergartners is also on a separate parcel, and that will remain. And here are some site photographs, just looking into the building, into the parking lot off Shadelands Drive and off of Mitchell Drive. And the map basically identifies where the buildings are located on the site with these stars identifying the locations. And before we get into the project details, I just wanted to go over some background. On October 18th of 2023, a preliminary SB 330 application was submitted to the city pursuant to state law and also pursuant to builder's remedy. And then on October 24th of 2023, the city's housing element was certified by California Department of Housing and Community Development, also known as HCD. The application was submitted 6 days prior to the city receiving that certification from HCD on the housing element. And on April 9th, the formal planning application was submitted to the city for this project to move forward. The application was deemed incomplete due to outstanding items in that first round of submittal. After receiving a second round of submittal on June 28th of 2024, the city did determine the application to be complete and did begin processing in accordance with all of the applicable state and local regulations. And subsequently, the applicant has been working with the city by submitting additional plan revisions, approximately 3 additional rounds of plan review after the application was deemed complete to address any remaining project comments. So now moving on into the project proposal. As mentioned earlier, the 11 existing office buildings will be demolished for construction of the new 422-unit multifamily townhouse development. It is a 3-story design with a mix of building types. It will have covered garages and outdoor decks. The units are arranged across 83 buildings, and the height will range from 38 to 40 feet. And a total of 955 parking spaces will be provided, and 111 of those spaces will be along the new internal roadways. The remaining spaces will be in garages. And 510 new trees are also proposed as part of the new landscaping palette, as well as a shared open space area, centralized community areas consisting of rain gardens, bioretention facilities, as well as a dog park. And as part of this project, the applicant is also preserving 8 of the existing trees on site. I will go into the location more later in this presentation. And 457 trees on site will be removed. Of those, 28 trees were approved by the city's consulting arborist due to the condition of the trees, of the species, and the remaining trees will require planning commission consideration as they were in fair to good health. And I also wanted to touch on CEQA. So given the size and scope of this project, the city did determine that an environmental impact report is required. So in order to identify and evaluate any potential impacts the project may have. And the key EIR is currently in process, evaluating all environmental factors. And a notice of preparation was also prepared, and a scoping session was held late last year in December to gather public and agency input on the environmental issues that needed to be studied. And public comments were also used as part of the preparation of that EIR. And all environmental topics were considered during the initial study of the project. And these are being analyzed in full detail in the EIR. And all sections of the EIR that are listed here are being drafted and under review. And the city is ensuring that they're thoroughly analyzed and any potential impacts will be properly addressed. And the draft EIR will be released for public comments at a later date. As mentioned earlier, still currently under review with the city. Once the public draft EIR is circulated, the final EIR is prepared, then that will be considered by the Planning Commission at a later date. So tonight, Design Review Commission's role is to provide feedback and input on the project, and the feedback that we gathered today will be presented to Planning Commission at a later date. We don't have a scheduled date at the moment. we have to wait for the EIR to be completed before we can schedule to Planning Commission's consideration. And Planning Commission will consider all of the items that are listed on this slide. And this project is also being processed under the Housing Accountability Act and SB 330. So essentially, the city's review is limited if the project meets all of the applicable objective standards. It is covered under the HAA as is a residential project providing multiple housing units. And the project is consistent with the city's objective development standards as well as the design standards. Additionally, the builder's remedy provision under the HAA does place additional limits on the city's authority to deny an affordable housing project that includes affordable housing units. And the builder's remedy allows a developer to propose a housing project that is more dense or is not consistent with the city's zoning and general plan. Therefore, no legislative action or amendments would be required. Sorry, I'm going to get a sip of water. And since this project, or sorry, this parcel is zoned business park, it doesn't have specific residential development standards. So the city did determine what would be the best fit development standard for this project. So in addition to the business park zoning standards and the city's design standards, the project will also align with the development standards of the most comparable residential zone, which is the M2 multifamily zone. And the proposed density of 19 dwelling units per acre does fall within the density range of the multifamily medium density. And here is just some information on the density bonus. The project is providing 55 units that are dedicated to low income. So for that reason, under state density bonus law, the project is allowed to request unlimited waivers to any development standards that may preclude the feasibility of the housing development. The applicant is requesting 10 waivers, and no concessions are requested as part of this project. And here is a list of those 10 waiver requests from the city's development standards. So the project does still meet the development standards, but just with reduced, for example, the minimum front yard setback required for a multifamily project would be 15 feet. The applicant's providing 10, and so forth. And the city did review all of the waivers against the city's objective standards, and the project will continue to comply with the city's objective standards, providing fire emergency access in case of a fire, meeting all building code and safety requirements, as well as storm drain C3 requirements, which are all of the city's objective standards, and none of those are being waived. And here is the proposed tentative map. The subdivision will create 82 new lots, and the 3 adjacent parcels east of the property will continue to remain. And here is a detailed site plan that essentially shows access to the site will be gained from Mitchell and Shadelands Drive, which then connects to internal roadways of the development. And it is a cluster layout, which shows the different townhouse building types or configurations that are laid out throughout the site. And the applicant could probably go more into this, but the project will be completed in 2 separate phases. And so here's a detailed site plan. There are 2 architectural styles being proposed, and it's identified as Neighborhood 1, or N1, and N2. So the Neighborhood 1 has both neighborhoods have 4 plans in each style, so a total of 8 plans for the entire development. N1, Neighborhood 1 has 6 building types, and the height will be 38 feet building height, and N2, which is the larger building type, seen here in the shaded yellow area, are the 4 through 7 plexes, and will have a 40-foot building height. And the unit sizes range from 1288 to 2157, 2 to 3 bedroom townhomes. 4 bedroom units are proposed in Plan 4 of Neighborhood 2. And two-car garages are also proposed for each unit. And then Plan 1 under the Neighborhood 2 does provide tandem garages for about 38 units. And now moving into the building architecture. So here is just a overall look at the variations in the architectural styles and color schemes. Each townhome or neighborhood, N1 and N2, does feature two distinct architectural styles, identified as Style A and Style B, with each having two different color schemes, so with a total of 4 color schemes per neighborhood. And the variation in color and styles does comply with the requirements of the city's objective design standards, which does bring variation across the site. And the intent is basically not to have identical color schemes next door or across from each other. And I believe this project meets that. And moving on into the Neighborhood 1 Style A, Scheme 1, I've just put up some renderings of the threeplex that you see here. Again, the buildings are configured like 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6-plex layouts, but I'm just going to go over the threeplex. And the key map here does show the location of that threeplex. And this is the only building in Neighborhood 1 that is a threeplex layout. And I also wanted to point out where the end units face the street or open space areas, similar to this threeplex design. It will have a side-facing second-floor deck. Otherwise, all of the other units have either rear-facing decks or front-facing decks, but this one in particular, this is an example of one that has a side-facing deck, and you can see that on the renderings here. And this is Style B, Scheme 2. I did want to point out that the Neighborhood 1 has 2-plex and 3-plex design, whereas the N2 does not. That has the larger layouts, which starts at the 4-plex to 7-plex. And this is just essentially showing the detail of the materials that are being proposed under Style A, and this is Style B. And it's essentially stucco, wood, fiber cement with metal and stone veneer accents. And I'll just quickly run through the floor plans. This is floor plan 1 for Neighborhood 1. Each unit does include a rear-loaded garage and a flex optional room on the ground floor. Second floor has living room, kitchen, great room, and outdoor deck. The third floor has bedrooms and bathrooms. And this layout basically continues into Plan 2. Again, you can see that deck that's facing on the second floor. And this is the third floor plan, 3 bedrooms. This is the Plan 4, which, as mentioned earlier, this one does have that option for a side deck instead of the rear or front deck. And this is Neighborhood 2, Style A, Scheme 1. Again, these are the larger 4 to 7-plex building configurations, and a total of 200 units located across 38 buildings will have this layout. Floor plans 2, 3, and 4 do include bedrooms and bathrooms on the first floor. Floor plan 1 has the tandem garages, and floor plan 4 under this neighborhood will have 4-bedroom units. And here's Style 2, Scheme B. This one's showing the 7-plex. As you can see, there's that tandem garage located in between. And here's the Style A for Neighborhood 2. Just again, more details on the materials and then the variation, as Style B uses a fiber cement lap siding, whereas Style A uses board and batten siding. So and stucco is used along both. However, just to break up the facade, there are some material changes. And this is Neighborhood 2 floor plans. The first floor has a tandem garage, as you can see here. And then right above the first floor tandem garage will be the great room, kitchen, and the bedroom is located on that second second floor along with the deck. All other units in the N2 in this neighborhood, plans 2 through floor, include a rear-loaded garage and a bedroom on the first floor. Second floor is mainly living areas, kitchen, great room, and outdoor decks. Again, third floor, bedroom, bathroom, same layout. They just get larger as we go. So this is Plan 3, which is a 3-bedroom. Again, that option of the bedroom on the lower floor. And this is the largest floor plan, Plan 4, and the 4 bedrooms are proposed in this floor plan. And now moving on into the landscape plan, 510 new trees are proposed that range in size from 15-gallon to 36-inch box trees. The applicant is also preserving 8 of the existing trees. 7 are redwoods that are located in that central area that I have with all the stars. And then there is a oak tree to the northwest that has a star that's also being preserved. And then the area that says off-site and is highlighted in that purple are all of the off-site, the adjacent neighboring trees that will also be preserved. And as part of that 510 trees that are scattered throughout the development, I'm just going to highlight some of the ones that are along the street frontages. 24-inch box London plane trees will be planted along Mitchell. 24-inch box redwood ash trees are planted along Shadelands, and the 36-inch box coastal live oaks are located within mostly the central open space area. And the 24-inch box evergreen elms will be located along the east side elevation, which is the elevation closest to the adjacent tenant, Bank of America, and the 3-story office building that will remain. And here's just a more closer look at the landscape plan. This shows the central open space amenities, which includes benches, barbecue areas, and some shade trees and planting in front of all of the units, as well as dog parks, bike parking, and then the cluster mailboxes that are scattered throughout the site. I believe this one at least shows the detailing of it. And as part of this project, there will be a removal of 457 trees that consist of coastal redwoods, cedar, redwood ash, evergreen, and London plane trees. I did want to point out that none of these trees are considered highly protected species under the city's tree preservation ordinance. What that means is they're not considered indigenous species such as like a walnut or a live or a valley oak. And in addition, the applicant is, to offset the loss of these trees, the applicant is actually planting more trees than what was on site. 510 new trees, as well as trying to preserve what they can on site. And there are a total of 31 off-site trees that will be either impacted by this construction or will be near the drip line of this construction. 19 of these will be protected during construction, and most of those are the more mature, larger trees that are located along the northwest to the left of the slide that's shown in that green box. And then 5 will be removed, and they're actually located on the right side with that larger box in that parking lot area adjacent to this project site. There are 7 other off-site trees that are being removed. They are undersized, so could actually be removed even without permits. And with that, staff does recommend that the Design Review Commission review and comment on the following topics that consist of site design, building design and elevation styles, landscape plan, and tree removals. And the input that we received tonight, it will be forwarded to the Planning Commission for consideration of this project and the entitlements. And before I conclude my presentation, I just wanted to add that staff did receive several letters of support and several letters expressing concern with the project, and all of those have been incorporated as part of the agenda packet tonight. I believe one additional copy did come after hours, but a paper copy should have been presented to you, as well as additional copies for the public in the back. And the applicant tonight also has a presentation, but I am happy to answer any questions.
Any questions?
Not of staff.
No.
Thank
Good.
you.
Thanks. Let's go ahead with the applicant presentation then. Please introduce yourself. Make sure the microphone is live. Thanks.
Great. I think I actually have the. Appreciate it. Thank you so much. Great. Well, thank you. Good to be here, everybody. My name is Jonathan Fern. I'm Senior Vice President of Development with Signature Development Group. I'm joined here this evening by our consultant team. We have KTGY Architects, it's our project architect, the Gusardo Partnership, who's our landscape architect, and then CVG Engineers, who's our civil engineer. We're here for any and all of your questions. Just to kick it off, I'm going to give a quick overview. Simmer's very comprehensive presentation took some of my thunder away, so we'll keep it my words short. But then we'll turn it over to David Burton at KTGY to talk about architecture a little more, and then Nick Samuelson at the Gusardo Partnership to talk about landscape. Benefits discussion. We are likely going to be extending those bike lanes as well. We'll talk about that a little bit later. As Simmer showed, we'll have internal walkways throughout. This will not be a gated community. This will have be open for pedestrians to migrate through Mitchell and to Shadelands. Cars obviously cannot do that. We have 2 exits on Mitchell, 2 exits on Shadelands, but there's no connecting the two. We felt that it was best to kind of have the traffic, if you will. And as Simmer mentioned, we are not wanting to chop down every tree that's on site, so there are a number of mature redwood trees that we are looking to keep, and we've organized our central open space kind of around those. Won't talk more about the increase in trees. We've covered that. 111 parking spaces that are set on the internal streets, as you can see, for guests and visitors. And then we have 30 bike parking spaces that will be sprinkled throughout the open spaces as well. Last but not least, 55 units, 13% of the total will be offered to low-income households. That is per the Builder's Remedy law, but that's nearly double the city's requirement of 7% at low. Won't spend too much time here. Simmer covered this as well. We've got 8 distinct floor plans, 2 distinct product types, ranging from 2 bedrooms, 2.5 bathrooms to 4 bedrooms, 3.5 bathrooms. Just a couple of highlights. Each unit will have kind of its own private open space. That's in addition to the common open space. 2-car garages for each floor plan. EV chargers will be installed day 1 for each unit. The project will be fully electric. There's no gas for this project to keep in line with the new REACH codes. And then they'll be solar ready. And some solar will be installed day 1 per code. So talking about some of the community benefit discussions that we've been having with the city, and some of the conversations we've actually been having with the folks at the Viamonte senior facility as well. There is concern about traffic on Shadelands and safety on Shadelands, so we want to be a part of a solution at that. And one of the things that we are talking about potentially installing, assuming we understand all the implications, is a roundabout at Shadelands and Viamonte, as you can see here. And then towards the eastern end, we are looking to install a raised crosswalk. One of the things that we've heard is that for folks that are coming off of Oak Grove, it's very difficult currently to exit out of the driveway at the Viamonte senior facility to make a left turn. So what we're hoping is that a raised crosswalk will slow down cars, so it's easier to make this left turn movement from the Viamonte community as well as our community as well. In addition, we'll be installing bike lanes on both sides of the street. And then, in addition to the bike lanes that are directly in front of our project frontage, we are looking to extend bike lanes the full length of Shadelands from Wiggett to Oak Grove Road, and then on Mitchell, both sides of the street from our project frontage to Oak Grove as well. So why are we doing it? Why here? We just think it's really a great place to have residential use, and I think you're seeing that more and more in the Shadelands Business Park. It's just walkable to a number of different things, as we've seen. You've got schools nearby, you've got retail nearby, you've got breweries nearby, you've got office uses nearby. So there is really, I think, an opportunity for folks to not have to get into their cars here. And we think that the actual design is very contextual with the surrounding neighborhood, and so we're really excited about it. Hard to see this, I guess, but the entitlement schedule, as Simmer mentioned, we submitted our preliminary application back in October of 2023, have since gone a number of rounds with city. We've addressed all of their comments. So we are here this evening at the Design Review Commission study session. We're working to get our draft ER out on the street, as Simmer mentioned, hopefully later this summer. And then we hope to be in front of Planning Commission and Council for their consideration in Q4 of this year. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to David Burton at KDGY to talk about the architecture.
Good evening. Happy to be here and presenting this project to you this evening. Some of this has been covered, so hopefully not too much repetition. We've organized the site here into two distinct neighborhoods, as has been talked about, that are come together along a central spine of open space. Neighborhood 1 is the blue buildings located off of Mitchell Drive, and Neighborhood 2 is the yellow buildings located off of Shadelands Drive. Each neighborhood has 2 points of vehicular access, which has been noted, 2 from Mitchell Drive and 2 from Shadelands. We've created a loop street network for each half of the site, such that all residents enter the neighborhood on a street and then only have a short drive down an alley to get access to their homes. Really wanted to try and give that good street frontage for everything. That network also allows us to distribute on-street guest parking evenly across the site to get that in good proximity to all the homes. All buildings are oriented to have front doors and balconies looking out onto the streets or onto a paseo or a central green space to ensure that those public spaces have a warm and inviting character. Fine-grained we've developed a fine-grained pedestrian and bike network that ensures walkable blocks and connects the two halves of the site to each other and connects everyone to the central open space. Nick Samuelson will talk about that a lot more when he gets up. Each neighborhood has distinct architecture to give it its own identity. We've chosen two farmhouse-inspired styles for each neighborhood. Neighborhood 1, which you see here, Style A has a more modern expression with tight overhangs, more vertical proportions, asymmetrical corner elements, and cooler color schemes. Whereas Style B is a bit more traditional with deeper overhangs, bracket details, and less vertical proportions, and a little bit warmer color palettes. Neighborhood 2 also takes that farmhouse style architecture as its inspiration, but uses forms, materials, details, and colors to make it distinct from those in Neighborhood 1. Style A is the more traditional one here, and it employs, again, deep overhangs, eaves with bracket details, exposed rafters, and more extensive use of wood look siding, and stone veneer than you'd find in Neighborhood 1. It also has more vertical proportions and uses darker, more saturated colors to make it distinct from the traditional style in Neighborhood 1. Style B is more modern of the styles here, and we're using shed roof forms to make it here very distinct from Style A, and also to make it very distinct from Neighborhood 1. Lap siding is introduced to help create different textures on these buildings, and stone veneer is used to highlight the entries. Like in Style A, darker, more saturated colors are used to make the architecture more distinct from that found in Neighborhood 1. This diagram shows how we're proposing to distribute the building styles and color schemes around the site to achieve the most diversity along street frontages, paseos, and along the central green space. One simple example of this is that along Mitchell Drive frontage at the top of the site. There are 7 buildings along the street, and we're able to achieve a good diversity such that buildings of the same style do not sit adjacent to one another, and buildings of the same style and the same color scheme are separated by around 500 feet, or about a city block. So you really won't see identical buildings sitting next to each other as you move about the site. And then just wanted to leave you my portion of the presentation with this rendering showing the view along Mitchell Drive. This gives you a good feel for how the design articulates individual homes while also creating a composed overall building. Gives good eyes to the street through use of large areas of glazing and balconies overlooking the street, and gives prominence to everybody's front doors. And now I'll turn the presentation over to Nick Samuelson to talk about the landscape design for the site.
Hi, I'm Nick Samuelson with the Gazzardo Partnership. We're the landscape architects, and when we were looking at conceptualizing the landscape design, we really first wanted to look at the connectivity through the site to the open spaces and to the surrounding neighborhood, because there are a lot of nice things around here. And these open spaces provide a variety of experiences and uses as you move through them, from the rain garden that's on the west side over to the dog park that's over on the east side. The rain garden, will provide nice backdrop for the picnic area we have with some grasses and native planting, provide habitat for wildlife as well. The dog park on the other end, we have a larger artificial turf area for the dogs to run around, and some benches for the people to sit there too with their dogs under the shade of the jacaranda trees we're showing there right now. The heart of the site really for us is the central open space where we have, we're able to provide a large lawn area for play, some barbecue and picnic areas around there, and we were able to keep some of the trees and add some oak trees in there too that the paths meander around. And then when we were looking at our planting, we did want to provide some native oaks where we could, so we focused those in the bigger areas where we had room, and tried to provide larger shade trees for canopy over the streets. The materials will be concrete with some integral color concrete, and we'll have some accent paving that kind of mark the plaza spaces with some decomposed granite as well. I think most of it was covered pretty thoroughly before, so I'll be happy to answer any questions about that too. All right, thanks.
So that's it for our presentation, but we're certainly happy to answer any questions from the commission. And yeah, our whole team is here for you guys. Thanks.
Thanks, great presentation. Do we have any questions?
I have a couple questions.
Okay.
There was a helpful graphic that showed the context of like Safeway, and there was that little BART logo. Is that where the shuttle may be?
Exactly.
Okay.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Cool. I just wanted to understand that. And then I saw in Simmer's presentation, the phasing, it looked like that central green is going to be in phase 1. Is that right?
Correct.
And then the rain garden, other half is phase 2.
Correct.
Cool. Okay. I wanted to ask, do you have any sort of idea of what the demographic might be?
Obviously these are 2, 3, 4 bedroom, units. So we obviously think there's going to be, folks that will be starter families, of course. We definitely there's an opportunity for folks to have move down opportunities. But young professionals, folks looking to, start their first house.
Okay, cool. Were there any hydro modification things considered so that so much of the open space doesn't need to be stormwater? Like silvicils or anything like that?
Oh, we had a conversation about this, but I don't know. Do you want to take this? Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioners. My name is Megan Alferness. I'm with CBG, the Civil Engineers. The project is providing hydromodification in the way of an underground storage vault in the west portion of the site. And that makes up for the area where the project is slightly increasing the impervious surface for the site. In terms of other methodologies for bioretention like silvacells, typically those are a lot more of an expensive component, and as well as they are also lined, so there's not as much opportunity for infiltration. So as proposed, we believe that the bioretentions are the best solution, along with the required hydromodification component.
Okay. Could you explain to me, and maybe not you, Megan,
Okay.
but someone identify to me where the private open space, is that just the balconies, or is there anywhere on grade there's private?
It's really just the balconies of the
Balconies.
units, yeah, and every unit has a balcony.
Okay. I think those are my questions.
Thanks.
Questions?
Well, you already asked several of them. Thank you. So I just wanted to get an idea of the scale of the open space and as the Commissioner said, what the use could be for some of those bioretention areas, what the finished materials are on them, are people allowed on them? And where do the kids go? I mean, that's kind of my main concern with this, is the health and safety aspect of having all of this grid of driveways and streets. And if you're hoping to attract families or young families with their starter homes, where are they going to ride their bikes? And where will they be able to gather or have a space to play if everything is essentially the bioretention?
Well, certainly not all of it is the bioretention. So we do have a pretty substantial, passive space that's in that central open area right now, in the rain garden over there to the left. There's also areas to congregate, and certainly, in terms of riding their bikes, I mean, there are going to be pathways all the way through this project. It'll connect into the larger bike network. We're actually adding bike lanes as well. I don't think you're going to just ride your bike in the 22-acre plan, but there's certainly I think there's plenty of space in that central open space to grill, to hang out, to walk your dog, that kind of thing.
So, related question, these walkways in between the buildings that are facing each other, the front doors face, what is that distance?
What is that?
Are they looking directly into each other? Is there room for two kids on bikes to pass on that walkway?
Distance between the buildings with the Paseo.
Oh, at the Paseos, we generally have around 21, 22 feet in between the buildings. If that's in the blue section up above, there's a kind of central Paseo that runs kind of across the site, and that one's about that wide. Clearly, the kind of central green spaces, those spaces are a good bit wider. I think we have correct me if I'm wrong, about a 10-foot wide bike pedestrian path that connects all the way through there. And then in the yellow phase neighborhood 2 at the bottom, again, there's that central Paseo. That one actually we are able to get a bit wider. I can't remember exactly how wide that one is, but we're able to widen that one out a good bit more. So we do have a decent amount of space in between the buildings.
Okay. Thank you.
I have a question I forgot to ask. So you mentioned that there's not connection to Oak Grove, and I think it says it's a 6-foot good neighbor fence. So if somebody were trying to get to Chick-fil-A, they come down to,
Shadelands?
yes, and then go through past Viamonte, right?
Correct.
And that's intentional. We don't want to put people onto Oak Grove. I'm just trying to clear, because up at the top, the northeast corner, there's a little walkway that looks like it's leading kind of to the Montessori
Yeah, I mean, I guess we just didn't, we don't own that property, so we didn't want to put cut through.
People on it.
Yeah.
Okay, so
paths
nobody's
through it.
likely to park in that parking lot because there's one little walkway that connects to it down in the southeastern edge.
Yeah, but that would put you onto a sidewalk that's on Shadelands. If I'm, you're talking about that bottom southeast corner?
Southeast, it's like the two vertically yellow elements with the three purple trees in the middle and then the
Yeah,
walkway.
no, there's no
There's no connection.
there's no
there.
connection.
Okay,
Sorry,
okay,
yeah.
so there's a 6-foot good neighbor fence along that
Correct.
whole edge.
Correct.
Okay,
Yep.
okay, thank you.
Anything else? Just a few questions. I mean, I'd say, starting along that same line, I think that, the challenge in housing is very much needed everywhere. I mean, I think in the Bay Area, I think it's 700,000 or 1 million housing units shortage anticipated. So in this sense, it's a really good start. I'd say the issue with these kind of developments in the housing is that you don't think about the secondary effects of everything around it. You guys it's great you're doing the bike lanes. I mean, I guess it's a question. So like as a function of the EIR is, I assume the EIR is not going to come back and say anything about the density bonus or anything like that. I think that's law. So I'm not going to ask that question, but like all the public schools are, like the elementary school that presumably serves this is across Oak Grove. I mean, would there be improvements planned on Oak Grove to keep kids safe as they walk to school?
There are bike lanes on Oak Grove currently, and there's I think the city is working on safe routes to school. We can do so much. We're assisting as we can with creating bike lanes, creating the roundabout on Shadelands to make things safer to get to work and to school. It's not just the kids here; it's kids in the Woodlands and other areas of the city. So this doesn't obviously sit in a vacuum. So we do what we can, but we obviously we're limited in doing everything.
I mean, true enough. I mean, it's just, the way the zoning laws are now, I think I'm more making a statement. Things are not totally logically zoned. I mean, obviously Shadelands is needs to see some changes. It's probably a step in the right direction. I think at this point, have you talked to the fire marshal about the clearances? Like, these are 3-story buildings. Can the trucks get in there? Can they swing there?
We have, that was a requirement from the city.
Okay, so that's already been done?
Yes.
Okay. Maybe just some questions of the architect about how the colors work. I guess, I mean, really, for a person walking down the street, how do you differentiate, like a kid walking home from school, or you're having guests over? How are they going to know? Like particularly on the whole blue section where everything's kind of the same. How will people be directed? I mean,
Not quite sure I understand.
well, I mean, go back to probably best on the plan. So I mean, is there enough texture and differentiating here for people to actually figure out where they're going to stop, neighbors, visitors?
Yeah, as we talked about there's 2 different styles, and they have pretty different characters to them in terms of depth of overhangs, the way that the buildings are articulated and things. And then each of those has 2 different colors. So you're not going to find yourself like, oh, there's 2 buildings that are exactly the same color and everything right next to each other. And how do I know which one I'm going to? So there is that variety as you go down the street. And certainly there's address signs for every unit at their front door and everything. So as long as you know the address of the person whose house you're going to visit, you'll find that. But we think there's a reasonable amount of variety as your eye goes down that street,
Thanks.
subject to opinion, I suppose.
I mean, I think that's all my questions. So I think we're going to go on
I
to.
have a related one
Go ahead. You have another question?
to the one that Commissioner Newsom and also Case have asked. Had you considered any massing changes, for instance, on an end unit, instead of 4 bedrooms or 3 bedrooms and making it a 2-bedroom, so you could have a little bit of a differentiation on height, so that moving down the street or people walking through the neighborhood have a little more to guide them? And then secondary to that, what is the wayfinding? Are there wayfinding signs throughout the project guiding you to address numbers, or the amenities that you do have, the dog park and things like that?
In terms of the massing, that in some ways would be a nice thing to do, and for better or worse, those corner units are your most desirable units. And so that's ends up being your largest units, because that's going to be the most valuable and desirable ones to folks, right? And so it would be counterintuitive to the economics of the project to carve that out and make those the least desirable units. So that's for better or worse, that's the answer to that one.
Well, that might mitigate, the desirability of that location might mitigate a little change in the floor plan. But that's my comment.
Still questions?
Right.
So
Yeah, just related to the wayfinding question, yes, there will be wayfinding. That is something that we'll do. It's a post-entitlement kind of task, but certainly, yes, we'll have signage that guides folks both to the amenities and to the various units within the project. So,
thanks. Anything else? So now, public comment, right? So do we have any comment cards turned in? And I remind folks that if you have a comment, you have 3 minutes. If you're speaking on behalf of a group of you, you have 10. So
I have 3 cards. I think there might be some more. You can bring those up when you come up. But let's go with these 3 first.
Okay.
Be Ed Shepard.
Thank you. I live in the Woodlands, just east of Oak Grove, across the street from this development. My main concern, and those of my neighbors, is traffic. If you'll put up with me, I'm going to try to predict what's going to happen. I've lived in this neighborhood for 40 years, and so I see the flow of traffic every day. One problem we already have with the Shadelands is there's very few entrances and exits. There's only 2 ways in from Oak Grove, only 2 ways in and out from Ignacio Valley. Most of the businesses and medical facilities are to the west end of the Shadelands. And so people coming from the north to visit those things are not going to go down Oak Grove, get on Ignacio, go down to Wiggett or Lennon Lane and go into those buildings. They're going to come through Mitchell. And so now we're adding, first of all, let me just say, in the mornings and the afternoons, there's a big congestion getting in and out of the Shadelands, especially from Ignacio Valley. So people in this, and then in the afternoons, the 2 high schools on Oak Grove get out, and it's almost beep and creep there for a while. And presumably, some of these people, a lot of these people, will be using those schools. Foothills down the way to the middle school. So I just see adding maybe 2 cars per unit, adding 800 cars to this. Yes, you can get out and walk to Safeway and walk over to the orchards, but that's not what people are going to be doing to get their kids to school and to get to work and get to their doctor appointments. And so in the evening and the morning, it gets really congested down on Wiggett and Lennon Lane trying to get in to the west end of the Shadelands. Now we're adding all that congestion over here on Oak Grove of people trying to get to those medical buildings and other businesses in there. So I see one traffic circle. I'm sorry, is that my time?
Yep.
I predict if you don't make them solve it, it'll fall on the city. And that's my main concern and those of my neighbors. Thank you.
Be Patty Bittenbender?
Thank you. Can you hear me okay? My name is Patty Bittenbender, and I live at Viamonte, which you can just kind of see there right across the street on Shadelands. It's a senior living community, and it will be located directly across from that project, across Shadelands. I am chair of the resident council and representing about 250 seniors who live in Viamonte. And as far as I know, we are currently the only residents living in the Shadelands area. We have neighboring areas, Woodlands, and behind the Whole Foods Shopping Center, and those are usually single families. You mentioned that on the other side of Mitchell is Oakmont Properties, which is maybe going to be built there, which would be another senior facility. Our concerns are primarily safety, and traffic is a big one. So we could be throwing up to 1,000 cars onto Shadelands and Mitchell, Oak Grove and Ignacio, which are already heavily impacted by traffic. In particular concern for us is the driveway that is the easternmost driveway onto Shadelands is directly across from the only exit we have from our garage. And I think that that is a safety hazard for both the Mitchell Townhomes project and for Viamonte, and would like to see that exit moved west to the other end so that there's one at North Viamonte and one at the other side. But in terms of design, looking at the waivers that have been requested, we are concerned about the front setback. We have a very large setback, as you can see. We have just across the street a line of landscaping, a large bike and bicycle and walking path, and then another large landscaped area before you get to our building. And so we do not front directly onto Shadelands, and we would like to see more setback on this property, on the Mitchell property. Also, it would be nice to be able to break up that long line of buildings that will be across from Bank of America all the way to Copa Sports. In addition, the density for the area that it's in, and considering how sparse the business park is, the density is a bit much for the area. while we welcome housing in Walnut Creek, we're not sure that this is a good fit for this property, the Shadelands area. Thank you. Do you have any questions? Thank you.
Thanks. Next up.
Wayne Morris?
Thank you, Commissioners and staff. My name is Wayne Morris. I'm a resident of Viamonte, and I'm here as a representative of a subcommittee of the Resident Council. Although we have many concerns about the development, tonight I'm just going to speak about the proposed tree removal and green space. I received the proposal in January, and I can honestly say 3 adjectives describe my reaction. I was shocked, I was appalled, and I was disappointed. I was shocked because we got the proposal literally days after the wildfires in LA had been put out, and here we're given a proposal that would destroy 457 mature trees. We're not talking 15-gallon trees. These are trees that have been growing for 50 years, trees that can help mitigate the environmental impact and can also slow down wildfires. So to have this proposal after the worst urban wildfire in the state's history was shocking. Then the more I looked at it, I was absolutely appalled. There are 103 coast redwoods on the property, 103 coast redwoods. Only 7 are currently proposed to be preserved. 96 coast redwoods are to be destroyed. And the arborist has reported that 82 of these redwoods are in good condition, and the vast majority are suitable to be preserved. But again, only 7 out of 103 redwoods. These are over 150 foot tall, and you can go in more than one area of the proposal and feel like you're in Sonoma County, the way the redwoods are growing. Then finally, I was disappointed that there is no green space along Shadelands Drive. The other 3 borders all have at least some green space. Shadelands Drive, as you can see on the map, is a solid wall of 3-foot-tall townhouses, only 15 feet from the curb. The existing buildings on the property are set back much further. These are 3-story buildings, 15 feet from the curb, in a solid line with absolutely no green space. In January, I wrote to the Planning Commission and suggested one way to address this is to remove the 3 or 4 buildings that are directly across from Viamonte. That would constitute just 5% of the proposal and could give space for additional green space. Be happy for any questions or comments.
We have comments at the end. Go ahead with the next.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Jan Warren?
Thanks for the pen. What about a laptop? Hi, Jan Warren. I live in the Woodlands 39 years, along with Ed. He's got a year on me. And I live just off of Peach Willow. So I come out of one street and pass another one, and I'm across. So I go down this area a lot. And I first want to thank you for bringing this project to us, because it will allow people to actually own housing, which we know allows you to build wealth. And there's, I thought there would be more than the amount of 7% for affordable housing, but it is something that's badly needed. I have a question regarding disability access. I have been over to the condos that are in the county area off of Jones and, you know, the Oak Grove condos. Awesome. So if you've got building something like that, great. I'm not sure that you're using the same kind of materials, and I don't see that you have the nice front porch area. But it's a good concept over there, and I was very pleased with what they did, and it was, I thought, priced well. I'd like to know, are the 55 affordable housing units spaced around whatever area that they can be in, rather than lumped together? I never find my stuff. Let's see, bicycles. I was having a hard time reading through where it talked about, and I was just guessing because I couldn't look at all the pictures. It takes too long to download. But the bicycles is an area around, you know, the gathering place in the middle. And there's space, I guess, some other places. But it's almost like, well, if you're going to encourage biking with all the great improvements you're making, are people just going to have to hook them up in their garage with everything else they've got? I just wonder about the bicycles. And I saw someplace 2% of, and I guess that's 2% that they're providing a place to keep them. I don't know. Also, in terms of community benefits, I'd like to put a plug in for the wonderful bus that comes through the Shadelands. I know that it comes through in order to help people get to work there, but I use it to go to the city and other places, over to BART. And it'd be great if we have this many people who are going to be moving in to have something. We have long wanted to have something, of course, downtown, going without a million stops. But the bus 7, and I forget the number of the other one that does go downtown, to have that big chunk in the middle of the day is tough. And that requires my husband to come pick me up somewhere to BART. So I'd like that to be considered. I was trying to figure out the, what was I trying to figure out? Let's see. Uh-oh. Okay, I'm going to do a second for the tree guy. I agree with his comments, although I know the redwoods are too big. If you can't pencil out. Sorry.
Thank you. Next.
Hi, everyone. My name is Leora Tanwatko-Ross. I'm a Walnut Creek homeowner, and I support this proposal. I went to the University of Oregon for my master's in architecture, and I went there because they were the #1 school in sustainability architecture at the time. And so this was 15 years ago. And what I learned there was that the most environmentally responsible thing you can do is to build housing in infill. So in places like this where it's kind of already paved over, and to build densely so that people can live close to transit, close to bike paths and bus stops, and really have walkable lives. I also have 2 kids that are at Marwood, and we are sometimes we are the traffic that people are talking about, you know, on Ignacio Valley or along Oak Grove. And we do our best to bike, but it's not safe, as you all know. And something that struck me was, as the school year started this year, a lot of parents at Merwood know me as like the biking lady because I bike every single day. And I got 7 text messages from moms who are coming into Merwood saying, okay, how do you do it? How is it safe to go? And the reason why they were getting in touch is not because they're like crazy bike people like me, but mostly because the traffic is so bad, right? So traffic gets to a certain kind of point, and I would say that Ignacio Valley in the afternoons is like that now. I have to take my kid to dance class at the Community Arts Center and you know, bike or drive depending on the timing, and the traffic is terrible. And honestly, like, terrible traffic incentivizes people to figure out another way to get there, and biking is a way that's more fun. It's not more safe yet, but, you know, like we're working together and, you know, kind of we're trying to build a community of people who can sort of live more sustainably, and we're doing that here in Walnut Creek. So it's a long way of saying I really like this project. I think it's sustainable. It is part of the neighborhood that I'm in at least 3 times a week, to go to the farmer's market, to take the kids to the community arts center. And I appreciate all of your work in evaluating it.
Anyone else? That's it? Okay, so commissioner comments. You want to begin, Casey?
You're both looking at me. Okay.
Yeah.
Actually,
Oh,
can I ask
We're closing the public hearing.
Can I ask 2 clarifying questions that I thought of when we were getting public comment? Chip, can I do that?
Yes. In response to public comments?
Yeah.
Okay, we can just, if the chair would reopen the public hearing?
Reopen the public hearing, please.
Could you show us where the affordable units are? I heard that question come up.
We don't have that slide, but we have a diagram. They are dispersed throughout the
Okay.
community, and dispersed throughout plan and plan type and bedroom type, so,
Cool.
but they are dispersed.
And then could you speak to the setback on Shadelands? Because I heard you say you guys are adding a 10-foot sidewalk, and I do see green space. So what is that actual setback?
It's a 20-foot setback.
Okay.
So it's a 10-foot sidewalk, 10-foot setback behind the sidewalk.
Okay,
Yep.
thank you. Okay, so here are my comments. I understand that Oak Grove, the property between this, oh, sorry,
Closing the public hearing again.
there you go. Closed, okay, we're closed.
Closing it shut.
Okay, okay. So I understand the property between our project site and Oak Grove is not ours. But if there was some way to think about connectivity there in the long run, that might be great. Not a deal breaker, but just figured I'd throw it out there. I recognize that Silva cells and stuff are expensive, and I think a lot of this looks like it's stormwater, and from what I know, typically that's not that usable. It's got the section that's like kind of kitty litter-esque, and you can't really be on it. It might be something that you could look at, see if there's a way that also makes it so you can save more trees, because I know when you do the bio, you have to grade it out. So I'm just saying those things to say them, do with them what you will. As the project evolves, I'd love to have more understanding of the amenities. I see that we're laying out spaces for like decomposed granite, and I see some benches and stuff, but I don't really know what's in there. And I asked about the demographics to try to understand if I should say, we'd love to see a playground, or we'd love to see, I don't know, more shade structure, something like that. But I'm under the impression that this is just kind of the layout, and we'll get to that later. But I just want to mention that I think it needs to have a little more programming other than like, here's some lawn and here's a rain garden. I think it needs more to pull you out there, especially if this is the usable outdoor space for all these units, because the balconies are the only other outdoor opportunity space they have. In that same vein, I appreciate that there's some usable green, but they feel kind of bifurcated by these pathways. I do want the connectivity, but I wonder if there's just a way to think about the circulation and movement through the site so you have some of those usable greens. They don't all have to be like little mini fake soccer fields, but like just trying not to chop it up too much so that it feels like there's getting some recreation opportunity. The main north-south, we called it the central walkway. I like that. I like the connectivity and making sure that you can get, you know, through this whole site in one straight kind of motion, but I wish it was a little more obvious. It feels like it kind of, the width of the sidewalk changes and you go through the central space, but then you're sort of in people's side yards again. So I think it would be nice if that felt more prominent, like it is really meant to be more of a public connector. This feels like you're kind of wandering into a neighborhood and you're like, is this okay? And is this going to get me through to the other side? I'm not really sure. If all of the bio has to stay, which I imagine a world it may, but if there's a world that it's not quite as significant, that would be great. But maybe there's a way to, you know, spend all the money and put boardwalks or like overlooks or something in. I'm just trying to make them feel more usable, or maybe there's a little butterfly garden, pollinator, something, so it feels like it's not just stormwater treatment. Kind of said that already. I do like the comment we heard in public comment about trying to integrate with the buses. I was thinking about the BART shuttle, but I also think maybe just making sure there's opportunity to connect to buses. I love the idea of people not using their cars as much. I know that's not entirely feasible, but I can imagine a world where we get better at that. I want to be better at that. I am having a little bit of a hard time of the long run of driveways. It doesn't bother me as much when it's on the Paseo side. I don't know a solution, but that is intense. That is a visually different character than we're used to. So I think you guys are trying to articulate it as best you can, but that feels pretty dominant on the site. I don't have a recommendation of how to change it, but that was my gut reaction when I looked at the site plan, is those grids and long runs of garage driveways are tough. So I don't know if maybe there's like trellises over the garages or I don't know, something, but that's hard. And then I think my last one, it's like weirdly specific compared to everything else. On the planting plan, I can see there's some ash trees, and I have nothing against ash. I just noticed in the arborist report that most of them seem to be not doing very well. So I was like, maybe we shouldn't be putting more of those out there again. I do agree that it's a bummer to lose a lot of trees, but I also want to just say that when I looked at the arborist report, not a ton of them were wildly healthy. A lot of them were parking lot trees. I appreciate that you guys are saving some, but again, maybe with the re-looking at the bio, we might be able to save a few more. That would be great. Mature trees help make a site like this not feel quite so high density, because the bulk of the tree helps bring the scale down a little bit. Okay, that's it. Thank you.
I hate to do this to you, but I also have some questions based on the public comment.
If there are questions of the applicant, that's fine. Yeah, okay.
Yes. So, thank you, Commissioner Case. You articulated some of what I wanted to talk about, too. My question is relative to the comment about the facing driveways. Have you looked at any alternatives from this Viamonte Senior Center that faces your roadway? Could you maybe flip those 4-unit buildings with the big unit building so the driveways aren't exactly opposite, something like that?
Yeah, we actually did look at that. We actually talked that with traffic. And, counterintuitively, I don't know if it's counterintuitively, but actually where it is right now is the safer location, because you're actually looking at who's across from you when you're pulling out of the driveway. If you flip it, then you have an offset intersection, and that's actually more dangerous. So that's why we kept it the way it was.
Okay, thank you. I think that answered that question. And then my other question was relative to the disability access. I had that on my list as well, and I wondered if any of these units could at all in future be disabled, possibly in some future point in time, the way that they're currently designed, or if there is access throughout the site for folks trying to gain access to their friends or.
So 10% of the units are already designated as accessible.
Okay,
Yeah, and they're spread out as well in the
10%.
Mhm.
Okay. That answers my questions. Thank you.
How about your comments?
So my comments relative to massing, and then also relative to some of the things that Commissioner Case said about the landscaping, the softening, and the massive 40 feet alleyways that are cold and basically not a human scale and not something that is going to make people want to feel, or they won't feel comfortable walking down those streets because they're primarily for cars. But I did wanted to call your attention to another project, which you probably are already familiar with, which is the Summer Hill project at, it's called Oak Grove, and it's on Oak, a block, yeah. So when you walk down those driveway streets and you're in that tunnel, it just feels very overwhelming. And if there's any way, as Commissioner Case suggested, that you can find a way to soften that so that you have happy people. And also, I would note that they're not sold out. And part of, even though they're immediately accessible to BART and nobody has to get in a car there, it's not a friendly place to live. So I'm sure that you'd have more success if you were able to address some of the concerns that Commissioner Case had. That's my comment.
That's it?
Yeah.
Okay,
Anybody
so,
else wanna see these? Anybody else wanna see these?
so, I mean, I'll say first off, I mean, the housing is needed. I mean, I think about how long I've lived here. I mean, I know this neighborhood well. I first started working on Wiggett in 1985, so that's 40 years ago. And I'll tell you then, it was kind of a nothing place in my mind. And I think things like this are beginning to making Shadelands more vibrant. But they can't be done in a vacuum. Unfortunately, with projects like this, you know, the state mandate is in effect. We can't really talk about density. We can't really talk about setback. We can't really talk about zoning. And sadly, we can't even talk about trees, which are so important in Walnut Creek. Essentially, our hands are tied. We can't, we're not here to talk about those things. I mean, I think we've articulated them the best that we can. I think what my fellow commissioners have said is really important. I mean, this is going to be a neighborhood in Walnut Creek, and people are going to live here. And so I think it's, all we can do is encourage the developer to think about the people who are going to live here and think about the neighbors and be a good neighbor. And I know you want to do that. I just think sometimes we get a little focused on what we can do. I work for developers. I know how that can be. I know the economics of it. But I mean, I think the thing is that there's more value created. I mean, if you can't sell the units, then that's money wasted. They're sitting there waiting, prices have to drop. I mean, I think little things like this where you can actually reactivate bioswales, relocate bioswales to save some trees and more sensitive solutions, you know, can actually help you guys sell the units. And, you know, in the short term, it'll be visible to buyers. In the long term, it'll be good for the residents. But like I said, I can't really do much about it. I think a lot of the comments that came out were really good. And I noticed that unlike some of these other, and we've had a few of these come up with builder's risk and density bonus, I'd say that the thing that's really good about this is I think you really have some support from the community. Nobody's saying the housing is not needed. Nobody's saying not in my backyard. They're just making comments to kind of make the project better. And so remember that. I'd say to the public that, you know, there's an EIR, and the EIR is about, if you don't know what they're about, they're going to talk about all these same things in public safety, traffic, walking, trees, bikes, transit. I've been on the receiving end of these. These things are going to be brought up. And sadly, like what somebody said, it does fall on the city. Is the city's hands are tied. They have to receive this project. There's a state housing mandate. They have a housing element that they have to follow. So really, but at the end of the day, it's in the developer's best interest to make a project that's attractive for people to buy them. Which all of the comments that you've heard from us and from them are really gonna help you succeed. I hope you know that. I think so. What can I say? I mean, I'd say, you know, my comment is make this a neighborhood. You know, I think the color and materials are actually very thought through. I think they're good. I'd say that, but think about it at a street level. Somebody walking along the street, are there a couple more materials that you can put in your quiver? Maybe just a couple more materials and a few more colors that will make it easier for people to differentiate and find their way around the neighborhood. Just more texture. I'm not going to talk about the density. I mean, I know, I've been through this a few times. I know that's not going to happen. Again, I think I really support what Casey said about the amenities. I think that's only going to help you. And I mean, the only other new comment I might have is just, I think the raised sidewalk across, I think it's Shadelands. I think that's a good idea. I think it's going to be important, though. You know, it's a very, as it's been said, it's a very important bus thoroughfare. So make sure that tabletop is wide enough so that the buses don't crack their casings on it. One of my projects I designed did that. So make sure it's wide enough so that it actually, people don't, you know, the buses don't damage themselves, because that's a very expensive day. That's it. Thanks. So I think we're just going to kind of collect those comments. I mean, do you want to?
Yeah, I've got a few here. It looks like there was some agreement on most of what Commissioner Case said, and so I'll see if I can recap that. It was further develop the amenities, to be in touch with the intended
Programming, yeah.
rethink some of the recreation opportunities for the green areas, or maybe that goes along with that same comment.
I was thinking of saying better usability and programming in common open space. Does that make sense?
Better usability and
Programming.
programming, yeah. Okay, so I can combine that. Okay, great. There was I'm going to need some help with this because everybody kind of agreed to, it was kind of a reconciliation of the streets, the green spaces, and the sidewalks, and I think there's a paseo width is what it comes down to. Is that right?
Say that again. Sorry.
There was reconciliation of the streets, the sidewalks, and the green spaces. And I think that was in reference to what were described as the paseos in the presentations. That'd be the wider streets going in this map shown on the screen, the vertical ones. I think. Actually, I guess they're both ways. So.
Paseos in my mind are the open space or the green network between the buildings. So I don't like that phrase.
Okay.
So you're saying, is that coming from our comment of our issue with the long line of garage doors?
Yes.
Okay.
And it was kind of wrapped in with the green space as well. I didn't really catch it all.
Okay. I was attempting to summarize these, so bear with me. I was saying evaluation of stormwater area and possibilities to reduce it or make it more usable.
Got that?
If you guys hate that, tell me. Then I said human scale. Long garage rows, not ideal. And then for fill, I wrote more materials, color, and texture.
And then you also had the comment about the green swath down the middle changing sizes so that it wasn't clear that it continued
spine,
through.
yeah.
That it was a spine. And I agree with that as far as, usability.
I mean, I think you guys have done a good job trying to promote the connectivity throughout and beyond the site. I like that. So I just want to make sure that remains paramount. And I would just love that. The light pink trees in the middle to be really dominant as a pedestrian pathway. So if you don't live there, you know you can walk through there. But you can cut those words down, Chip.
I think that's what that was the dominant pedestrian pathway.
And the presentation from Simmer, it was central walkway, I think you called it.
Got it, okay. And I think we had, I think everybody was, that was a comment from everybody, right? We can find consensus there, okay, great. Okay, do something to enhance the bioretention areas? And yeah, okay.
And try to save some of the trees in them if at all possible.
Pardon me?
Try to save some of the trees in them if at all possible.
That was next. I've got,
Okay, sorry.
yeah. Yeah, long runs of driveways, yeah, it's possibly look at trellises, I think back on that one. Also, do something, reconcile streets, green spaces. Yes, and look for ways to save more trees. Seem to be a consensus item. Okay.
Particularly the redwoods, not so much the ash.
Redwoods are kind of a thing around here.
Okay.
You need a lot of water, though.
Yeah.
Okay, and the other one was to, in the new palette, was to rethink the ash trees. The arborist report didn't necessarily grade those that well.
Yeah.
Good comment. Okay. Okay, great. I think we're there.
Okay.
So we're done with that.
Yes.
All right.
Thanks, everybody, for those great comments. So I'd say, let's talk about commission considerations. What are we considering, Mr. Secretary? Any commission considerations, any items on the agenda that are not required to be noticed, but where a formal staff presentation, question and answer period would be helpful? Nope, okay.
No.
Commission member and staff reports or announcements. Do we have any reports or announcements?
I have one. We have the July 2nd meeting will be canceled, so go ahead and make those 4th of July plans.
Excellent.
And I have another one, just for your information, so that there is a survey currently underway for the sign ordinance update. It's primarily directed toward businesses and property owners in this first phase, but you can access it via the city's website. And it's on the banner up front, and it's like, help with the sign ordinance. But it's really in trying to get the more utilitarian side of the signage, so what the business community desires, and then that feedback will be taken into the subcommittee that's between Planning Commission and, Design Review Commission, and then sausage will be made, and then we'll go back out and with another survey with some more visuals that go with it. So just to give you that update.
Okay.
Thank
cool.
you. Okay, that's it. Adjourn.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you.
At 7:43. Where is my thingy?